right. How are we doing? How are we feeling? Welcome to the show, my friends. Welcome to the stream. It's been a minute, but we are back. Jimmy Moreland here for you right now. Commercial voice actor, audiobook narrator, and music producer. And we are back on the stream. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to do some real live commercial auditions, and then we're going to do some real audiobook narration. People say, "Oh, Jimmy, you never stream anymore." It's because the audiobooks, man. I'm up to my neck in audiobook work, and I like to work weird hours because I'm a degenerate. But we're going to do a little bit of everything today. We're going to do some of the audiobook work, but first we're going to do commercial auditions. Now, people who know me well will know that relatively recently I acquired some representation. We will not be doing any agency-delivered auditions because most of those things have super rock solid NDAs, and I'm a good boy. I don't violate NDAs. But suffice to say, cool things are happening on the agency representation front. But we still love to go spend some time from time to time in what I call the zoo. That is the pay-to-play casting websites. So without further ado, let's jump into what we're going to be seeing. We'll talk about the stream if you've never been here before, and we'll go from there. All right, this is Pro Tools. This is where we are going to be working. If you have any questions about any of the software or anything that I'm using, then feel free to drop a comment there. This is voices.com, one of the probably the biggest pay-to-play website for voiceover audition work. And then this is Voice123. Our other place, got some cool things to talk about here. That's kind of recent fun news. And then we will check over here in ACX, the Audiobook Creation Exchange, just to see if we were looking for new audiobook work, what that search might look like. A little bit of a spoiler, I'm not looking for new audiobook work. I'm chock full of audiobook work, but we will just take a look through the list and sort of talk through our thought process of what titles we would or would not take a stab at if that's what we were interested in doing. But we're going to try to move pretty quickly through these auditions so that we can get to the audiobook work. I really need to get to work, people. So we're going to try to do that. So first things first, voices.com. Now, for anyone who stops by, I do have chat for both Twitch and YouTube up on my tablet over here in this part of my field of vision. So feel free to ask me anything about the biz, about software, about these websites. If you're considering getting onto these websites, ask me about gear, microphones or whatever. I love talking about all that kind of stuff. So don't hesitate to ask me anything there, and I'll do my best. Maybe give me a few minutes even to spot it in my peripheral. But this is I do try to be chat focused as well as I can, but we are trying to get some work here, to get some work done here. So I'm going to refresh voices.com real quick, and we're going to just run through real quick for reasons I may or may not take something. For this one here, Voices sort of applies a pretty rough algorithmic sorting. You can see here I am an 80% voice match for this first job. And that'll be simply because of the way this client self-categorized when they made this job. Let's take a look. Role, announcer. That'll be a reason for it. Announcer is a very old school coded spec term. My guess would be that this, they have posted a bunch. It's strange. I mean, maybe they really do want an old school announcer read of this. But announcer is typically, it's really not a very marketable modern sound if you see this in specs. Usually, specifically, the specs will say, we don't want an announcer type read. So I don't have any of my demos on this website. None of them are tagged with announcer because you typically don't want that. That's not how you book nowadays. But so the fact that this is tagged with announcer, I'd be interested to see who out there is getting a 100% voice match on this. Also, this is miscategorized. This is not an animation category job. This is a promo or commercial. Dolly Parton's Threads, My Songs in Symphony with the Pittsburgh Symphony, tickets at pittsburghsymphony.org. Like, that's not animation. Animation is, it's anime, it's, Warner Brothers, it's Disney. That's animation. this might be a product that is animated, but this is not an animation. So this is miscategorized. One of my biggest complaints about voices is that they could solve this really, really, really easily by just having a little pop-up when a client selects animation. And this client should know better. They've got 136 reviews, so they've probably posted close to 1,000 projects. So they should know better. Like, you should know better than to click animation. It's doing yourself a disservice, and it's doing all the talent out there a disservice. It's in fact, I'm gonna report this. Let's see here. Let's see here. This is not an animation job. Missing or incorrect performance details. There we go. Maybe nothing will ever happen with it, but it just really obnoxious that that Voices continues to let people do that, because that's probably the number one single reason why I'm not a 100% voice match on a given job. Here, I'm only a 90%, and it's appropriate because this is a video games category job, and I don't have a video games demo. Likewise, I don't have an animation demo. So if you incorrectly categorize your job as animation, I'm not going to have a 100% voice match on it. This, interesting, like video games are fun and everything, but super low budget, already 35 people in line ahead of us. And again, I'm only that 90% voice match, so it's unlikely I will even be heard by this client. And it seems very likely that we will not be doing any auditions on voices.com today, though we'll look at this. The budget is really bad, but okay. So they're saying no accent, North American any. This is a Canadian spot, and there's a box to check for a Canadian accent. So you should check that box. Otherwise, something veteran related, like I've got a huge leg up because first line in my proposal to them is like, hey, I'm a veteran. So looks like we're not doing any of these jobs because anything here, there's already way too many people in line ahead of us. Voices.com, the name of the game here is speed. Everybody gets access to the jobs at the same time. And so it's just like, how quick on the draw are you? Like, are you sitting at your computer, like doing auditions? Yep, that's everything on Voices. We're going to keep this tab open, and if we get a little email ding for a job on Voices, we'll check it out immediately right here on the stream and see if it's worth doing. So voices.com, it's quick draw. You got to be ready to do the auditions right away, and it is a zoo. It's a free-for-all. You don't get penalized for doing any and all auditions that you want. All you can lose is your own time. Voice 123, however, they don't send the auditions out to everybody at the same time. They send them out in buckets based on where you are in the algorithm, what your membership tier is, and then there's some random sorting that happens with all of that because they also send things out sort of in buckets, in tranches. And so you kind of never know exactly when that drip feed is going to hit you. And sometimes it hits you really well and you get a job. You get an audition call that has 0 auditions in line ahead of you. And then sometimes you'll get something that has 30 in line ahead of you. But let's refresh this page and see what we've got here. Papa Murphy's. $9.99. Looking for fun, smiley, energetic. That's not really me. But we'll take a look here. Local franchise, we'll play for 1 quarter. What's the budget? Sorry, what's the budget? $150 for paid media for a quarter. What's the locality? It says local, but you didn't tell us what the locality is. If the locality is like Flagstaff, Arizona, fine. But if the locality is New York City, then no, like you need more budget. So this is kind of troubling to see this kind of stuff here. Yeah, we have no idea what the locality is. Maybe it's in the actual full script here. No, it's not. So that's annoying. Um, that makes me think that maybe we're not going to do this because $150 for potentially getting conflicted out of who knows what market for 3 months. That's a huge opportunity cost potentially. And I'm also, these specs aren't really me. And on Voice 123, you live and die by your position in the algorithm. Um, and so you need to choose your jobs that you're going to audition for very carefully, because the way that you get pushed up or down in the algorithm is whether or not you're getting hired or whether clients are liking your auditions, giving them a thumbs up. So if you audition for a bunch of stuff that you're not right for, you're not going to get hired, and clients aren't going to like your auditions, so you're going to get pushed down the more you sort of shotgun approach your audition strategy. So you need to be really laser focused on things that you are absolutely right for. I am not absolutely right for that, and the terms are kind of crap anyway, so we're going to skip that one. This one, let's see here. Train production anthem. Love a corporate anthem. We love these things here. Every day here starts with purpose, after all. Okay. Cool. This might be something that we actually do here. Fixed. We love a fixed budget. Sure. For anthems and things, these are typically things that are not going to be broadcast. These are going to be landing pages for their corporate website, or something that's going to be played, during some corporate board meeting or an event or something like that. So, excuse me. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, let's go ahead and go here, and check one. You should be able to hear this. Let me make sure. Nope. So Pro Tools loop back. There we go. There should be just a little touch of a chorus or a delay effect on my voice. You're going to have to deal with it, because this is how you're going to be able to hear my punch and roll process. I could mute it, but then the punch and roll would be very strange. I think it's important for folks to hear what that sounds like. So we're going to go ahead and do this audition. Let's go for it here. You'll notice I have not done a complete pre-read of this script. I like to try to read it cold, see what happens. Every day here starts with purpose. After all, it's a place that's seen... I like the opening line. Every day here starts with purpose. After all, it's a place that's seen its share of ups and downs. Every day here starts with purpose. After all, it's a place that's seen its share of ups and downs. So we get up every morning to do our part, writing the next chapter. Going to work to provide our part, writing the next chapter. Going to work to provide for our families. Going to work, writing the next chapter. Going to work to provide for our families, but also for something bigger than ourselves. We come from generations of builders, and today that work means more than ever. Because inside this plant, we're building America's newest high-speed trains, and the first ones ever made in our country. And what happens inside these walls doesn't stay here. First ones ever made in our country. And what happens inside these walls doesn't stay here. It moves to Main Street, supporting the people who make this place what it is. A town where our strength comes from working together. A town where we never hesitate to protect each other. And a town that believes in our future. And through it all, we honor a hard day's work, no matter where it happens. Okay. So we're not going to give them the whole story here. So typically with commercial voiceover auditions, you give them 50 to 60 seconds of audio. This is going to go for, it looks like if, I really tighten this up, it might time out to around about a minute. But as it is, the audition is going to come in over a minute. So we're choosing a spot to cut, and we're cutting. So right here, boom, that's 57 seconds. So that is plenty of time for this client to make a decision whether or not to hire us. Let's listen to this last line to make sure. No matter where it happens. Sure. Here we go. Hit save. Turn on our D-click for a second. Bounce. We're calling this Train Production Anthem. Sure. Bounce. Bounce. Accept the invite. Hit this. Grab that file. Delete that. And submit. There we go. You'll notice that I did not listen to my audition. Listening to your audition, it doesn't do anybody any good if you don't have to. Especially when you are doing these pay-to-plays and you got to be quick. So just move on, man. Don't take it so serious. We're going to clear this one out because it's full. Any other ones that are full? This one's way full. Okay. We've got a bunch of auditions that are good potential ones. Oh, this one's no good. Oh, we got a couple actually here that are no good, including this one. So let me zoom in here. So on each of these jobs, there are 3 criteria upon which I eliminate jobs from the broad dashboard view here. First is the number of proposals. In this case, they have received 14 out of the 50 proposals that they have requested to hear. So there's not too many people in front of us in line, and the client has stated, hey, I want to hear 50. So if it's below that number, I'll trust them at their word that they're going to listen to all 50. Now, typically, if they listen to 10 and, numbers 2, 7, and 8 are really, really good, they're probably going to stop listening. Because, why do that? You've found 3 really, really good options. Just go with it. Time is valuable. Move on. So that's the first thing. Second thing is this number right here. Budget. If the budget says looking for a quote, I skip it because I'm not a mind reader. I might be the perfect talent for a job, but if I pick the wrong number in my quote for a budget, then I'm not going to get hired. And the talent might not even like my proposal because maybe my quote is so far out of their budget that, well, we're not even going to like it. So suddenly I'm getting dinged in the algorithm, not based on my abilities as talent, but based on my ability to read someone's mind. I'm not going to do that. So anyone out there, talent buyers, if you're on Voice 123, put your fucking budget. We're not mind readers. You are hurting yourself because there's a lot of talent out there who are simply skipping your job because it lets us know that you are either trying to take advantage of people by encouraging people to undercut themselves and everyone else, or that you're just an unserious person. Don't do it. This client has listed a budget, but the other thing here that's missing here that is here is a request for a custom audition. And you can see when we go in here, get custom auditions? No, send me related samples. This lets me know that this person, despite having submitted 38 projects, this lets me know that this client does not know what the hell they're doing. They just haven't been doing this long enough to get burned. Here's how you get burned as a talent buyer. You go, oh, no, just send me related samples. So someone sends you the most brilliant demo that's just pristine, just the most amazing audio, the most amazing performance. You go, cool, wow, this sounds great. Let's hire this person. Can you get us, typically on this website, you expect a 24-hour turnaround for most stuff. And so, yeah, cool. We're going to hire you. Then the talent goes, oh, well, that demo I sent you, I traveled to New York to get that produced in a big, fancy, expensive studio with a Neumann U87 microphone running through, Neve preamps. And I don't have the ability to produce that at home. I can talk into my iPhone. How about that? You know what? I'm not going to bother the client. I'll just deliver them that. So suddenly you get shitty audio. The reason you get custom auditions Number one, obviously, so that you have sort of a level playing field of every single talent reading the exact same copy so that you are judging apples to apples. But the other thing is to prove that the talent can do the job. Being able to get a demo produced with like a professional director, an engineer, someone else running all the tech, using someone else's booth, someone else's space, using someone else's microphone, all of that, anybody could do that. You can coach anybody through a demo, and you can give them all the gear and the space and do the tech and everything for them. The job is having the gear, having the expertise, having the skill to do it and to turn it around quickly. That's what this is testing. The custom audition tests that part of the ability. And so if you aren't asking for that part of the ability to be tested, you are screwing yourself. You are setting yourself up to get burned by talent who can't actually deliver what's in their demo, and you're going to miss your deadline, your production deadlines, because suddenly you're scrambling to find new talent that can actually do the job. So save everybody some time and just ask for a custom audition. If your project is like secret, like if it's NDA or whatever, grab some generic copy. Anything. Just give us anything. Save yourself a lot of trouble. Like, it's the stupid, I cannot understand the mindset. And here's another one. And then here's another one. And then here's another one. So stupid. Like, and I'm not saying like I'm God's gift to voice work, but like, there are lots of talent out there who won't do those jobs because I don't want to work with clients who don't know what the hell they're doing. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that. Moving on. Whore construction. This will be fun. General American mail. Nationwide full service construction. So this is recruiting. Okay, at Whore Construction, we've been building a foundation. Okay, good, simple, straightforward recruiting video. This is kind of in my wheelhouse. I'm good. I'm good for these things. So we'll go ahead and do this audition. All right. At Whore Construction, we've been building on maybe a little too much country. Do we know where it says national? Okay, so more of the Ford trucks and less the Ford trucks. At Whore Construction, we've been building on a foundation of trust, integrity, and strong values since 1940. Our people... let's go ahead and do a punch and roll like we said we would. Strong values since 1940. Our people are our greatest asset, and we believe our company is only as strong as the individuals we invest in. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out. Lots of fun consonants coming together with this. Strong as the individuals we invest in. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, you'll find a place here where mentorship, growth, and real opportunity are a priority. At Whore Construction, you're not just joining a company. You're joining a legacy built by people who care, collaborate, and construct with intention. Gonna have to do a cut there somewhere. We're just gonna have to listen to this, unfortunately. We're gonna do a cut here. Legacy built by people who care, collaborate, and construct with intention. Whore Construction, building people first. Let's hear how that last. Hello? Building people first. No, we're gonna do that again. Whore Construction, building people first. Sure. Okay. Quick edits. So these first couple of transitions are good, but at some point I got sloppy and I did a moment of long roll. Grab that there. Individuals we invest in. Whether you are a seasoned professional or just starting out. There it is. Whether you are a seasoned professional or just... We've got that J there. That's a good point.
Whether you are a seasoned professional or just starting out, you'll find a place here where mentorship, growth, and real opportunity offer.
All right, cool. Everything else should be good to go. We will listen to this transition.
People who care, collaborate, and construct with intention. Or construction. Building people.
Cool. There we go. Hit save, hit the D click, and bounce this out. Horror construction. Horror construction. All right, accept the invite. Here we go. And we are submitted. Anyone who's anyone who's been on the stream before might notice something kind of neat. Let's see, duplicate. Give myself some breathing room here. Over here in this little window, kind of a neat thing that recently happened right here. Top 10% of voice actors, baby. Wait, what just happened? Top 10%, baby. This recently happened. I didn't get any kind of email or anything like that. I just noticed it one evening. Yeah. So if you don't have the lore, the backstory, like I said, you live and die by the algorithm on Voice 123, and the number one thing that you hear new people to the platform caution against is going nuts and auditioning for everything. Because when you first get on, you get the top 10% experience when you first get on the platform. You see everything because like they're just trying to make you feel excited. And so the natural inclination is to audition for everything, especially if you're coming from voices.com, which I was. And on Voices, you can audition for everything. There's no penalty for doing that. For Voice 123, if you audition for everything, your hit rate's going to be quite low, and you're going to get punished in the algorithm. And boy, was I. I found myself in the bottom 20% of talent. Let me tell you, that's a sad place to be. The auditions that you see when you're in the bottom 20%, it's sad, man. It's quite sad. And so I was in Sadville for quite a long time. It took me about a year of consistent, focused work to get from bottom 20% to top 20%. And only just about a week ago or so, I guess I've continued doing things right, and now I'm top 10%. So that feels pretty good. What is this little badge? Does this mean anything? What is, I don't know what that means. Does this mean like pro? Allow top professionals who want, wait, does it, we might have to check that out off stream. But yeah, pretty cool for that to happen. Lord knows it's been, it's been a long time coming. All right, let's zoom out a little bit here again. Halloween male. Let's see what they're wanting. Are they wanting like a Vincent Price? No production in perpetuity, but what's the usage? Brother, if you're not going to give me... You heard him. Come forth and enter if you dare to meet our newest full-size fright. Ultra skelly, 6.5 feet. So... without knowing it says no paid media. In perpetuity for things that aren't paid media, it's not a big deal. It's pretty standard. It's pretty common. But like, this isn't me. I'm not going to try to do a Vincent Price or like. We need more notes from them. They just gave the script. They didn't say like, do you want like a pretty straightforward read like, hey, come by the skeleton, or do you want like, hey, come by the skeleton? Like, we don't know what they want. This one, it says they're looking for male young adult. That ain't me. That ain't my voice. So let's see here. 630 words. Yeah, we're going to skip this one. Looks and honestly, it seems like they probably want, I don't know. I just don't seem like the right talent for this, and that's fine. Is this okay? That is podcast related. We'll check that out another time. A lot of irons and a lot of fires. I'm producing podcasts. I'm playing live music. Got I got everything going on, my friends. Let's see here. Tiny Head's cinematographer role. Okay, looks like we got plenty of notes here. Give me a sec. Just gonna raise. Okay, we got really bad grammar here. Just gonna to raise. So, if your character is in conversation with someone else, give us the other side of the conversation. Like, please, just give us these wild lines. It's hard to know, like, what the hell. So, he's developed an airy babysitting voice. I don't know. I can't be asked. Moving on from that. Okay, so that's all the voice. We only did, 2 auditions? Sometimes it goes like that. But the point is to be at your computer, ready to hit record, especially when the voices.com jobs roll in. You need to be able to hit record, strike while the iron is hot. Okay, now we're on ACX, and we're just going to quickly look based on the budget that I actually work in. Wow. Okay, so it looks like ACX did some housekeeping, which is great. You'd rather see only one real project than 20 fake AI slop projects. Here we go. Let's for educational purposes. See. Okay, so here's 2 projects, and just maybe this will be the only thing that we do on this part of the stream, as we just go why would I consider this project and why I would not consider this project. I can think of at least 3 reasons I would not consider this project. But first, let's look at the project. No, let's look at the no project first. First, right here, project length, under 3 hours. You need to not have these in your portfolio. If you're going to do projects like these, do them under a pseudonym. Don't do them under your main narration name, because in the audiobook industry, people talk about their body of work based on just simply how many titles they've produced. So if you are at a convention, or maybe you're emailing with someone or whatever it is, and you say, yeah, I've done 40 books, that's about the number where publishers and things like that, people will start to take you seriously. Like, oh, this person's been doing it for a while. They've probably got some series under their belts, so they were getting repeat work, which means they've had clients who have been happy enough with them to rebook them, yada, yada. If you say, I've done 40 books, and that person follows up and looks at your portfolio, and all the books are these under 3-hour projects, that person is going to go, oh, that person misrepresented their body of work to me. They were dishonest and misleading. They're blacklisted, basically. They're not audiobooks. These are pamphlets. They're brochures. This is a podcast, not an audiobook. Don't take these. Again, unless you're going to use a pseudonym. Knock yourself out. If you want to take all the super short little products or whatever, knock yourself out. If it's, here you go, word count 9,000. That's close enough to a finished hour. In fact, it might actually, something like this, there's a good chance it might actually end up being longer, just because of the content and everything. Your phrasing and your pacing might be slow enough that you might actually end up over 1 hour. Typically 9,300 words is what you sort of benchmark for an hour. So this is fewer words, but you'll probably end up reading something like this a little bit slower than natural speech. But let's just say, for example, it was only 6,000 words. even if even if your final project is only 40 minutes, even if it's only 10 minutes, on ACX, the minimum payment is 1 hour. After that, it rounds to the nearest minute, but you're going to get paid a minimum of 60 minutes of this rate. So at 9,000, even if it comes in it'll probably come in at 56 minutes, you're still going to get paid for one full finished hour there. So, okay. The first reason I wouldn't do this is because of how short it is. 1 hour, that does not look good in your portfolio. Second reason is the age of this project. Let's go back to here. Oh, we posted on April 26th. It is May 8th. This thing's been up here for 2 weeks and change. Don't do it. When an author posts to ACX, they get dozens, even hundreds of auditions, especially in this price bucket, the $200 to $400 per finished hour. They get hundreds of auditions. So you need to be quick, just like voices.com. On ACX, you need to be quick on the draw. If you're trying to get into audiobook narration as a secondary gig, good luck, more power to you. But if you've got a day job where you are not able to take a 20-minute break and produce an audition, you're going to have a really, really hard time booking anything because you need to be quick. And if you are at your computer, whether you're at home or work, wherever you are, if this is something you want to do, you need to be refreshing this page multiple times a day. Because you need to see these books when they pop up. I see people on Facebook all the time in the Facebook narration groups complaining, oh, there's no jobs. And it's like, there are jobs. You just need to be quick on the draw because a job will get posted. They'll get 50 auditions in that first hour, and then the author will take that down because they're overwhelmed and like, okay, this is enough. This is going to take me hours and hours to get through these auditions. So just keep that in mind, that it's not that there's no projects here. You're just not getting lucky, but you make your own luck. You need to be there. You need to be hitting refresh and getting on these auditions as soon as they get posted. So that's reason number 2. I would not do this audition. It's way too old. Plenty of people have already auditioned for it, so it's likely that this author is not going to hear my audition. So why would I waste my time? Third reason is the content. I say on this channel a lot, know yourself. Voice talent, like actor, know thyself. Know what roles you are right for and not right for. That's really important on Voice 123. You only want to be submitting for things that you are suited for. The same applies for audiobooks. Like if you're not down with a religious title, do you really want to be spending hours and hours and hours narrating and then editing and proofing religious material? If you're not down with our LGBT friends, do you really want to have this box checked? Do you really want to narrate something like that? Like, maybe you should go to therapy. But no, know yourself. Know what you're suited for. Know what audiobooks, man, it's a long form thing. Like, oh, we're actors, we can do anything. Like, yeah, that's fine for, a 30-second commercial script. I'll read for damn near anything. But for a 10-hour audiobook project where I'm going to be in the booth for a week or more, living with this stuff, you got to be good with it. So just know what you're right for. And I know that I'm not right for this title. Now, contrasting on all 3 of those metrics, let's look at this title. Dispensational hermeneutics. Oh, never mind. This is a religious one. So I wouldn't be doing this one because of that. But on the other 2 metrics, it looks like it's probably good. Interpretation principles that guide dispensationalism's understanding of the Bible storyline. Wow. So first of all, project length is appropriate. It's a bit short, but that's fine. 3.2, that's quite short. But it's above the absolute bare minimum. 3.2, it's fine, especially if this is one of your early, like your first projects. Like, great, this is a great project length. It's enough that it won't be super overwhelming if you're starting to find it really difficult. It seems like this is probably like a deeply researched. This might have been something that was like it sprang from someone's like theology PhD dissertation or something like that. So it seems like you're probably going to have to do a lot of pronunciation research. But that's why you sort of look through the audition script and just see what's there. But even the title, like dispensationalism, like hermeneutics, like you're going to have to know these terms and know how to say them confidently and comfortably as you narrate. So could be a lot of work on the pronunciation side. But the length, the project age, again, this was posted today. This is when you want to get your audition in. I saw someone a while back on the Facebook groups going like, oh, I like to read and reread and reread the audition script, make notes on the characters. I like to highlight and prep my script, and then I'll look the book up on Amazon and I'll read the excerpt that's available there so I can get a little bit extra. It's like, by the time you do all that stuff, you're gonna be 90th in line and you're not gonna get heard. So yeah, you might have delivered like a really nuanced, well-researched audition, but you know what? That author will have picked the 8th audition they heard that they just like their voice, and they go, well, like they didn't nail this character, but once they have the full book and context, they'll nail that character, and I just like their voice. Like, that could have been your voice that they liked. But instead, you chose to screw around with trying to deliver a really, really well-researched, no. This is a volume game, baby. You gotta get those auditions in quick. Get it in, move on. So yeah, apart from the potentially the content, which might steer me away from doing this would be a good project that I wouldn't mind having in my portfolio. I wouldn't mind doing this project. And again, for that pay, hey, I'll take some of that money. Why not? Looks like we're getting some emails rolling in. Delete that one. Guys, Animal Wells on sale. I will be checking that out later. But yeah, so that is ACX done. But while we were yapping, let's refresh this. While we were yapping, we had a couple of Voice 123 jobs roll in. So let's take a look at these. And depending on how these go, we might head over and start doing some real-life audiobook narration. Let's take a look here. Premier League. So why are they wanting an American read for something that's Premier League? Are they doing... Okay, it is MetLife Stadium. Okay, strange. Voice talent, know thyself. I know I never get booked for sports stuff. It just doesn't happen for me. So as much as I would love to have $300 in my pocket, we're going to skip that one because I just don't get booked for sports stuff. I'm not a sports guy, and maybe that somehow just comes through in my delivery. Let's see here. This seems more like something that is in my wheelhouse. This will be like a live event type thing. Audio. Each spring we return to the soil and to the game. Farming and baseball. Oh, we got sports. But it seems that agriculture is more of the strange. They're ag is the focus, but they're trying to use like a baseball angle to make it cute, which is, fine. Why do we have a table? Okay. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this one. All right, here we go. Each spring, we return to the soil and to the game. Farming and baseball. To the soil and to the game. Farming and baseball. Two traditions born from the land, shaped by time, carried by generations. Today, the game moves faster, the stakes are higher, but the goal is the same. Plant the right seed, take the right swing, and trust the work. Some folks hope for a great season. So here, this is obviously a typo. We're going to fix it. And trust the work. Some folks hope for a great season. You make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire Corn States organization is excited to host you for our 2025 Seed Partner Meeting. We're going to do a cut probably right here. Is excited to host. Maybe we'll do this whole line. You make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire Corn States organization is excited to host you. The entire Corn States organization is excited to host you for our 2025 cut here. And maybe the cut also goes here. We'll listen to that just in case. Corn States organization is excited to host you for our 2025 Seed Partner Meeting. For our 2025 Seed Partner Meeting. The way Corn States organization is excited to host you. Let's get this whole thing. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire Corn States Ladies and gentlemen, the entire Corn States organization is excited to host you for our 2025 Seed Partner Meeting. We're going to say that's good. And let's edit. Paste. We might have to listen to a couple of these transitions just to be safe. And to the game. Farming and baseball. Two traditions born from the land. Sure. You make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire Corn States organization is excited to host you. Cool. We're going to call that good enough. Save. Bounce. We're going to call this, I guess, like 2025 Seed Partner Meeting. Boom. Close that out. Accept the invite. Hit this. Hit that. Oh, actually, nope. We didn't have our D-click active, and I don't want to be clicking in their ears as they listen to our auditions. So we're going to boom. Trash that one. Re-upload. There we go. Okay. Submit. Boom. And we were 9th in line for that, which is a good place to be. Cool. So that's all the auditions there. So now we're going to do a couple things off stream here so that I'm not doxing myself. Boom. We will go ahead and open up Positron. Maybe we'll do some pickups or something on stream. That could be fun. All right. So we're going to be doing, I want to make sure. Okay, that's all fine. That's fine. We're going to make sure, let's see here, open Iron Fist. So let's do some Professor Pogo. What software are you using? What software are you using? I just built my own booth in my closet and started using Audacity. Is that okay for a beginner, or do you recommend something paid? So thank you for the question. So I am on Pro Tools. That's what you're seeing here on the left side of the screen. You don't need Pro Tools. Nobody needs Pro Tools. I got into the Pro Tools ecosystem because I do music, and specifically because I knew that the people I was like most frequently going to be collaborating with, music-wise, were on Pro Tools. So that's why that decision was kind of made for me. If I hadn't had that consideration, I might have gone the Adobe route because in a past life, I did a ton of like wedding photography. I did a ton of video work. I still do I still do that kind of work from time to time these days, and so I do still live in the Adobe ecosystem. But Adobe Audition has never been something I've really done any work in. If I have to do audio work in the Adobe world, it's probably because I'm doing video work, and I will just make the audio tools that are available in Adobe Premiere. I'll just make those work for me, even though they're not as robust as what I find in Pro Tools. But to answer your direct question, is Audacity good to go? It is. There'll be some things that maybe you'll grow out of eventually. The biggest thing being the destructive editing that you get in Audacity. So, for example, like here, if I'm dragging stuff away, like that stuff goes away, it disappears. Whereas Pro Tools, like everything that's under, sort of behind these edits, it persists. It stays behind there just in case you need it. And then you can get really nuts with playlists, but that's more of a music thing. I don't really use playlists for voiceover. Destructive editing, more robust plugin support you'll have in a paid program. So things like noise reduction stuff. I'll show you my this tool right here, the RX Isotope, this is the DS, not the DS. The mouth declick is the one we want. Make active. The mouth declick. This is the single most important plugin that you'll want. Audacity, to my knowledge, doesn't support sort of native plugin things. I see people with these crazy workflows where they have to like export out of Audacity, bring it into the standalone version of RX, process it there, and then export it again. It's like so many extra steps into your process, whereas this, it just sort of lives in the ecosystem, and you turn it on when you want it to work, and you turn it off when you don't want it to work. So that's the thing. But again, hundreds of audiobooks get made every month, maybe even every day, on Audacity. And if you're doing just straight voiceover auditions, absolutely, Audacity, that can get the job done for you for quite a while. The only time you might run into issues is if you're working, once you start getting the higher level jobs where you're wanting to get live directed sessions through Source Connect. Even though nowadays it's less of an issue because the new Source Connect 4, it's a direct connection that doesn't require a DAW at all. Like, you don't have to have Audacity or Pro Tools or anything. Source Connect is the platform. I'll show you what Source Connect looks like here. Source Connect is just the tool that allows an engineer to remotely record your audio in perfect fidelity. So this is what Source Connect looks like. This is Source Connect 4. And again, this is the one that directly connects. I don't need to have Pro Tools or anything like that for this to work and for another engineer to record stuff directly. However, a lot of people, Source Connect 4 is pretty new. A lot of people are still on Source Connect 3. And that, you do need a DAW, as I understand it. Or some engineers like to do some kind of crazy connection where they're going to need you to set up like special outputs in your DAW and stuff like that. And on something like Audacity, you might find yourself limited. But if you're booking stuff, Source Connect isn't free. So if you're booking stuff that requires Source Connect, by that time, you probably got some cash to throw at a paid DAW. But to further answer your question with some suggestions for a paid option, again, I don't recommend Pro Tools. If you have no other reason to be in the Adobe ecosystem, I don't recommend Audition. I say that without ever having any experience directly in Audition. I just say that because Adobe is evil. I will say, like, the most recommended things that I see out there are Reaper, Twisted Wave, and Studio One. Probably in the order of Reaper, then Studio One, then Twisted Wave. I think that's the order that I see things recommended in. I think they're relatively cheap. I think all three of those are at or under like the $100 range. So get one of those. That will allow you to do proper punch and roll recording, which you cannot do in Audacity. Punch and roll, if you're doing anything longer form, audiobooks or even like e-learning, even like industrial explainers and stuff, editing those kinds of things that have been recorded in long roll format, that's brutal. I don't want to do that. So being able to do punch and roll recording, you'll be so much more efficient. Your edits will be less stressful. It's just a breeze. It's a better way to live. Trust me on that. Go ahead and close Source Connect here. So yeah, one of those three programs would be the thing to do. And then I would say, like, as quickly as possible, you want to bring in iZotope RX into your workflow. It goes on sale pretty frequently, but getting that mouth declick plugin is absolutely essential. It will save your ass so many times. And if you buy I think it's the Studio package, that will get you also the spectral denoise, which I don't typically use because my booth is pretty quiet. But if you have any kind of issues with HVAC, your air conditioning or whatever running or whatever it is, if you have any kind of even way low-level background noise going on and you want to knock that down just a little bit without doing anything radical that will change the sound of your audio, this spectral denoise tool, absolute lifesaver. It's got this learn function. You select a period of silence of your room tone, and you let it learn based on that, and then it applies a profile to cut that out by a reasonable amount. I only have 6 dB of reduction, but for narrating, for narrating, I do put this on, but again, it's only 6 dB of reduction, and my booth is pretty quiet to begin with. It's not necessary for my booth, but for some booths, depending on your setup, you might need that. But yeah, kudos for building your own booth, man. That's man or lady or other. Don't mean to assume, but kudos for building the booth. It's cool. So yeah, this iZotope is the company, and then RX is the suite of products. iZotope makes all kinds of like really crazy plugins. They make really well-rounded like mastering plugins for music. That'll be the Ozone product that you don't need as voice talent. You do not need Ozone. I have it again because I produce music. They've got really cool reverbs and stuff. If you ever want to plug in a guitar or whatever, iZotope has some really, really cool products for music production. But for voiceover production, I'd say they've got like a production bundle. I can't remember which one it is that you'll want to look at, but you definitely want like the mouth declick that's if you could buy things totally standalone, which I don't think you can, but if you could, that would be the one to buy. Beyond that, the spectral denoise is absolutely killer. The other one that I do use on audiobooks is the DS, because I have received feedback that sometimes my S's can be a bit sibilant on the microphone. That's a combination of this Neumann TLM 103 is famously a pretty bright microphone. It's really good at picking up S's. Professor Pogo, there's so much to learn. Thanks for the kudos. Wasn't cheap building the booth. Holy hell, don't I know that. Now I just need the lessons to use it. First class on the 14th. Congrats. Classes are totally badass. I still take courses and do like masterclass sessions and stuff like that. It's, you never stop learning. There's never not something to learn. Like even, big mega famous actors, like when they're taking on a new role, they get dialect coaches and, movement coaches and all kinds of stuff. And for voice work, it's no different. The industry is always changing. So even if you've got the perfect voice where your just natural speaking tone is perfect for the industry where it is right now. Well, in 5 months, things might change. In 2019, 2020, it went from being just straight ahead conversational to suddenly the COVID read. Everyone had to have a good COVID read. The we're all in this together. That read. And my voice, not super well suited for that. So, never stop training. That's a good impulse. But yeah, kudos for building your own booth. I built this booth. I know that you can't really see a lot of it, but it's pretty big. I can fully stand up. It's maybe, close to 9 feet this way by about 7 feet that way. I've got a slanted roof. That wall is slanted. You can't really tell, but that one's, I'm sure you did all the research, whatever. My walls are about 10 inches thick. But yeah, I built it all with my own two hands, designed it myself. And, this is where I spend all my time. So I wanted to do it right. So kudos to you for doing it right. So what we're going to do right now, is we're going to do some audiobook narration. Now, this book, I got to throw this out a little bit there because this is a rare time where we have a potential content warning for this book. Now, I'll say first up, I used a researcher on this book for the pre-read. Rule number 1 of audiobooks is you got to pre-read the book before you hit record, because you need to know, you need to know all the accents that the characters have, because sometimes it could happen that you read the whole book narrating this character one way, and then on page 400, it's like blah, 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 so-and-so said with their trademark Irish accent. And you go, oh no, I've read them as an American this whole time. Stuff like that happens. And in fact, this series that we're about to narrate right now, the first book I read for them, it didn't mention a character's Boston accent until about halfway through the book. Thankfully, I pre-read that book cover to cover before I started recording, so I knew that, but it was just funny, this would have caught me. But, so, in fact, we're going to go ahead and do this because we're going to start this chapter over. So you got to pre-read the book. Now, sometimes, deadlines get in the way, and this is one of those cases where I was on such a deadline crunch. I've got so many projects stacked up that I paid someone to read the book for me, and they basically wrote a really in-depth book report for me. And I'm about halfway through narrating the book, and so given what I've already narrated and with what I've read from the book report, there's a little bit of content warning stuff in this book, and it is sexual assault related. It's not graphic. The parts that directly sort of surrounded the event itself have already passed. That has already been narrated. So anything that comes up in today's narration potentially will be more oblique references or talking about the aftermath, that kind of thing. Specifically, this is a sci-fi book, this wonderful sci-fi world that Mark McGinnis has built, the USS Hamilton world. Really awesome world that I'm thrilled to have the privilege of narrating. This is a case where it's like an alien creature, and the issue with this was there was an issue of questionable consent between the two parties. And it's sticky, to say the least. It's a little bit thorny, and but typically this author does approach these kinds of thorny issues with caution, care, grace, intelligence, all that kind of stuff. So, but if you are hypersensitive to that kind of content, maybe check out at this point in the stream before we narrate, because something might come up, and I can't necessarily say that I'm 100% going to be able to foresee that before it comes up, naturally in the narration. Again, because I had a researcher for this. Now, we're going to shift windows around just a little bit because, actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go like this. All right. For my friends who might come in on YouTube, No more am I going to be able to interact with your chat. I am only going to be able to interact with Twitch chat because I'm going to be narrating off of my tablet. I know for these voiceover auditions, I've had the text up here on the screen so that you could sort of read along with me. However, as part of the arrangement for being able to live narrate these real paying audiobook projects, I don't put the text on screen. That's just something, the text that I'm working off of hasn't seen final formatting for publish, so it's not necessarily the prettiest thing to present to the public, and the author doesn't necessarily want me giving away the store by giving you the text as well as my butchered audio. This will be a potentially frustrating thing to listen to. I think it's important to note that. This is warts and all what the audiobook production process is like. So if you have never, if you've never done an audiobook yourself, this might be a bit eye-opening to go like, oh wow, that's brutal. So you're gonna hear just how many mistakes get made, but this is how the sausage is made, my friend. This is what it's like. So other logistical details. I've got a timer set up that I'm gonna hit. We're all right. Chapter 23. Got to find my place here. 23. Oh my god. So I've got a timer that'll hit. That's for me to track my own time. I'd like to narrate at least an hour here on the stream, and then we'll sort of just see how we feel. But yeah, and if we need to take a code yellow or something like that, we'll do that. But I'd like to narrate at least an hour, and in this book, that should be about 3 chapters. 3, maybe we'll do 4 chapters. Well, right now we'll say we'll do 3 chapters. You're getting 3 chapters in the middle of the book, obviously, so you're not going to, hey, thanks for following the Instagram. I appreciate that. I don't post super frequently on Instagram, so, I'm not going to be bugging you or bothering you, but yeah, we're dropping in the middle of the book. This is like a big, grand, military-flavored sci-fi thing. There are alien races, and we sometimes do battle with them. Sometimes they're our friends. Sometimes they're our enemies. The enemies in this book are the technomycoids. They're sort of a fungal-based, they're like a fungus-based life form where their whole deal is that they, sort of like a fungus, they consume biological matter from the peoples that they're conquering, and they also consume physical, technological material, and they sort of deform everything, deconstruct and reconstruct things into these horrible abominations that are like this sort of fungal network of a mix of biological and technological hardware, and they are these sort of horrors that they're the bad guys in this particular book. And yeah, so the lead character is Galvin Quintos, and it's the adventures of Galvin Quintos and his crew aboard the USS Iron Fist. So we're going to jump into it here, and we'll see how it goes. Chapter 23. From my captain's mount, I watched the Tor-Kalath star system Tor-Kalath. Chapter 23. From my captain's mount, I watched the Tor-Kalath star system unfold across Iron Fist's halo display like a celestial ballet. The above-average-sized, orange-tinted gas giant Tor-Kalath dominated the projection, its swirling storms creating patterns that reminded me of ancient Terran art. Closer to the... So we're going to stop there, and we're going to do this. So I do punch and roll, but frequently I will stop and do a miniature long roll. So if I know that, hey, that word or turn of phrase is going to give me, I'm going to have to hit that 10 times potentially. I won't do a punch and roll each time to try to take an attempt at it. I'll just briefly take stab after stab after stab at it while we're rolling. This time I got lucky and I got it the second try. But in those cases, I stop and I make the edit immediately. Because when I do the full edit for the punch and roll thing, I need to go. And I need to make it obvious where things have been properly edited. So let's listen to this.
Orange-tinted gas giant Tor Kaloth dominated.
So there's that dominated, and I think this is it. Let's listen.
Gas giant Tor Kaloth dominated the projection.
Need a little bit more space there.
Giant Tor Kaloth dominated the projection. Its swirling storm.
Sure. Cool. All right, back to it. Where are we here?
Reminded me of ancient Terran.
Ancient Terran art. Here we go.
Reminded me of ancient
Terran art. Closer to the system's K-class star, 3 rocky planets traced their eternal orbits, while the outer reaches held 2 ice giants surrounded by glittering rings of frozen methane. But it was Rockthar.
By glittering rings of frozen
Methane. But it was Rockthar itself that held my attention. The Therokine homeworld hung against the void like a jewel, its atmosphere streaked with bands of purple and gold, atmospheric compounds our sensors struggled to identify. My cam went out. Let's take a look here. It sure did. It might have overheated. Let's find out. Let's see here. This camera has been around, you know? There we go, we're back. Yeah, this camera it's a little old. Ooh. Likely ban evader. Well, get banned, nerd. It's all about the voice anyway. No, this is about developing parasocial relationships. It's Twitch. Okay, we got a voice 1, 2, 3 job here. Let's take a look and see if we want to stop what we're doing and do this. See, this is the ideal way for me to work. The audiobook is like the long form, like this is how I'm paying the bills. And then when the voiceover jobs come in, I potentially stop what I'm doing. Let's take a look here. No. Looking for a quote. You, my friend, can go away. Yeah, I'm not even going to look at this. This looking for a quote garbage. You can just go away with that. All right, back to it. Tab. Here we go. Where were we?
Pounds our sensors struggled to identify.
There we go. Cool. All right. Thank you, by the way, for the letting me know. That's a hell of an assist. All right, where are we here?
Sensors
struggled to identify. Here we go.
Pounds our sensors
struggled to identify. 2 major continents dominated.
Our sensors.
Let's see here. What do they mean when they say looking for a quote? Okay, let's see if I can pull that back up. So this is, can I hit back? I can, okay. So, voice 1, 2, 3. There are plenty of reasons for me to reject a project. For the budget. This is what I'm talking about when I say looking for a quote. Let me go ahead and zoom in for it so you can see it. Budget. Ideally here, you want to see a dollar amount. But they say they're looking for a quote. So they're putting the onus on us, the talent, to come up with a number. The problem with that is, on voice 1, 2, 3, you live and die by the algorithm. And your algorithmic, the way you move up or down in the algorithm is based on whether or not clients hire you or give your auditions likes, like thumbs ups. So imagine I submit the most perfect audition. Like I am the voice for this product. But maybe my quote is like $100 over their budget. Maybe like, because they have a budget. They know what they want to spend on this. And maybe it's $500. And maybe I quote them $600 based on the usage, based on just my internal calculus of what I think this work is worth. So I've quoted just a little too high, and they go, well, this is the perfect voice, but their quote's too high, so we're not going to hire them, and we're not even going to like their audition. Suddenly, even though I did my job perfectly as talent, I'm getting dinged in the algorithm because I'm not a mind reader. It's stupid for me, it's stupid for the client, it's stupid for the platform. This is the single stupidest thing about Voice 123, that clients are allowed to do this. On voices.com, you can't do that. You have to put a number. You got to commit to a number. Again, these people have a number. They know what their budget is. This tells me either they're inexperienced. They've posted 33 projects, so they're not really inexperienced. This tells me maybe they're trying to take advantage of talent. Maybe they're trying to get people to race to the bottom, to underquote, to quote less than what the work is worth. And that's part of their game here. I don't want to work with clients like that. You know? I would rather, if your budget's $100, fine, say so. Sometimes I'll do auditions for jobs for $100. If it's straightforward and if you seem like you're going to be a really easy client to work with, sure, I'll do it for $100. Let's go. But this, get out of here with this. This is garbage. I'm not risking my position in the algorithm because, again, the algorithm, the way it works on Voice 123 is you see jobs sooner the higher your ranking is and the higher your membership tier is. So I am currently at the highest paid membership tier, and I'm top 10% voice talent. So I am seeing jobs as early as I can, which is a great place to be. But I've also been on the other end of that. I've been down in the bottom 20% of voice talent. Talked about that earlier in the stream. But, if you're lower ranked, you don't see jobs. Everyone else gets a crack at it before you see the jobs. So the only jobs you do see are the worst jobs, the jobs that have really low pay or the script is a mess. You see the lower quality jobs. So I'm not going to risk my position in the algorithm based on my confidence in my ability to guess the number that's in this client's head. It's really, really annoying to see that. Anyway, I have bloviated long enough on that, so we're going to go back to narrating.
Pounds our sensors struggled to identify.
Sensors struggled to identify. We've got a tricky consonant coupling coming up here.
Pounds our sensors struggled
to identify. 2 major continents dominated the northern hemisphere.
Pounds our sensors struggled
to identify. 2 major continents dominated the northern hemisphere, their coastlines ragged where they met vast oceans that shimmered with an unsettling crimson tint. I'm going to go ahead and make this... Is it here? Let's listen.
2 major continents dominated the...
Again, we need a...
2 major continents dominated the northern hemisphere.
For some reason, the word dominated, that I just have a hard time saying it. Let's go.
With an unsettling crimson
tint. Atmospheric condition confirms xenobiological reports, Paxton announced. Who?
Condition confirms xenobiological
reports, Paxton announced from ship operations. She looked frustrated, fingertips having to repeatedly... Frustrated, fingertips having to repeatedly re-tap commands on her misbehaving console. High oxygen content, traces of xenon, definitely breathable, though the higher gravity is going to make...
Xenon, definitely
breathable, though the higher gravity is going to take some getting used to. Through the projection, I could see Othvani, Rokthar's largest...
Through the projection, I could see
Othvani, Rokthar's largest moon, emerging from behind its parent planet. The natural satellite was a study in contradictions. Emerging from behind its parent planet. The natural satellite was a study in contradictions, its crater-scarred surface already bearing the marks of our civilization's ambitions. The joint military outpost under construction sprawled across the moon's equatorial region like a metallic spiderweb. Construction drones Construction drones swarming around ginormous foundation structures that would eventually support U.S. Space Navy, Army, and Marine facilities. Multiple ships detected near the outpost, Pristy reported near... Multiple ships detected near the outpost, Pristy reported from Tactical. Reading 2 Pleiadian cruisers, 3 U.S. Space Navy support vessels, and something else. She frowned at her readings. Can't get a clear signature on that last one. Mother's having trouble classifying it. The vessel appears to utilize Thine construction method. Nella cut in before Mother was able to report her findings. Though several key components are of unknown origin. Oh, wait. That's... Before Mother was able to report her findings. Though several key components are of unknown origin, Mother finally relayed. Hold on. Unknown origin, Mother finally relayed. Hold on, Blunderton. Origin, Mother finally relayed. Hold on, Blunderton interjected from damage control, her emotional bird Lucy puffing her chest and emitting a cooing sound as if sensing her tension. That's no Thine vessel. Captain, I'm reading U.S. Space Navy signatures. It's a recently constructed Omninaut. I leaned forward in my mount, eyes narrowing at the massive warship now clearly visible in the halo display. The vessel's pristine hull gleamed against Tor Kaloth's orange glow, its sleek lines and state-of-the-art weapons arrays a stark contrast to Iron Fist's weathered frame. The sheer scale of it was breathtaking, at least 6 miles of cutting-edge military... Do our edit here. Hold on, Blunderton relayed. Hold on, Blunderton interjected from damp. Here we go. Come back to here. At least 6 miles. At least 6 miles. At least 6 miles of cutting-edge military technology. That's USS... At least 6 miles of cutting-edge military technology. That's USS Vigilant. Oh my God. Cutting-edge military technology. That's USS Vigilant. Pristy said, her voice tight. Fresh out of Halibart's shipyards. But what the hell is she doing here? The question... Okay, so we got a little bit of editing here to do. Military technology. That's USS Vigilant. And then we do this cut. That's USS Vigilant, Pristy said, her voice tight. Yeah, that's fine. But what the hell is she doing here? But what the hell is she doing here? The question echoed. A little noise there. But what the hell is she doing here? The question... But what the hell is she doing here? The question echoed my own thoughts. Admiral Gilbert's briefing had emphasized Iron Fist's critical role in defending this sector, in training the Therokines. Yet here sat a warship that could outgun our jalopy of a vessel in every conceivable... Yet here sat a warship that could outgun our jalopy of a vessel in every conceivable way. The whole situation reeked of hidden agendas and half-truths. Captain, Newman called from communications. We're being hailed by USS Vigilant. Vigilant. Newman called from communications. We're being hailed by USS Vigilant. She paused, frowning at her readings. Sir, the signal characteristics indicate this is a QED burst transmission. Sir, the signal characteristics indicate this is a QED burst transmission. Photonic resonance patterns suggests Earth order. QED burst transmission. No, that's better. Sir, the signal characteristics indicate this is a QED burst. Come on. Sir, the signal characteristics indicate this is a QED burst transmission. Photonic resonance patterns This is a QED burst transmission. Photonic resonance pattern suggests Earth origin using Vigilant as a local relay hub. But it's patched through comms and definitely Admiral Gilbert. Of course it is. I shared a look with Pristy, who had turned in her seat to face me. The concern in her eyes matched the unease churning in my gut. After decades of service, we both knew when something wasn't adding up. Okay, little bit of editing to do here.
Burst transmission, photonic resonance pattern.
Yeah, resonance. I have a hard time with that word. Resonance, precedence, horizon.
Burst transmission, photonic resonance pattern suggests Earth origin using Vigilant as a local relay hub, but it's patched through.
And then here, I think.
Local relay hub.
Maybe here?
As a local relay hub, but it's patched through comms and definitely Admiral Gilbert. Of course.
There we go. Okay, and then I think that takes us through, yep. And we'll cut in maybe here.
After decades of service.
No, we'll cut in here. Cool, we are schmoovin'. This is great. Let's see here. Da-da-da-da.
The unease churning in my gut. The unease churning in my gut. After decades of service, we both knew when something wasn't adding up. Mr. Grimes, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. Maintain our approach vector. Crewmember Newman, let's see what the good Admiral has to say about this little surprise. But as Newman patched the transmission through, I couldn't shake the feeling that delivering this obsolete dreadnought to the Therokines was about to become the least of our problems. Iron Fist's propulsion drives labored Iron Fist's propulsion drives labored aft and beneath us as Grimes adjusted our course, the sound carrying that distinctive resonance that reminded me of just how old and temperamental this vessel reminded me of just how old and temperamental this vessel truly was. Through the halo display, I watched Othvani grow larger, its surface a patchwork of pulverized stone, the moon's natural dusty mantle now interrupted by a gleaming metallic surfaces of a more The moon's natural dusty mantle, now interrupted by the gleaming metallic surfaces of more advanced engineering influences. Somewhere down there, the Therokines were waiting for their warship, though whether they were truly ready for that responsibility entailed remained to be seen. ... Real quick about the ... So, when I come through on the edit, I am fast on the edit. However, if there's anywhere where there's a break within the chapter, what I do, I'll go ahead and show you basically how it happens. So we'll go ahead and show you what we're looking at here and why I do it this way. So I say ... and that gives me a visible waveform that looks like ... And I'm going to start recording here for the next section. ... I leaned back, taking in the halo display as it tried to sync with the signal, and so forth. When I'm editing, I'm zoomed in to this level. I'm hitting tab and I'm adjusting borders. Hitting tab, adjusting borders. Tab, wait, that's ... I grab this section, I hit paste, and I move on. That's how fast it goes. By doing that, not only is it nice because it retains its color, so when I'm zoomed out and looking, in fact here, should be able to spot some chapter breaks here. In this chapter, from a distance, I can spot where there's a break within this chapter because we got these two yellow things here. So it's potentially useful for that reason, but the color isn't what's important. What's important is the consistent length of this gap. This gap is exactly 2 seconds long. So anytime in this book, if you're listening to me narrate and 2 seconds is just long enough to go like, oh, something has changed. And that lets the listener know, like, okay, we've got a shift in point of view, a shift in setting, a shift in time. And that's what these chapter breaks are for. That's why the author puts it in there. Usually the author will, either it's just a big, multiple space paragraph break, or there will be like 3 asterisks, or this author uses like a cool, like little wavy symbol. But for me, visually, when I'm editing, that ... that's what does it for me. That lets me quickly identify it. I grab the region, I paste in that 2 seconds of silence, and then I move on. So there's your explanation for that. That's something that can't be done in Audacity. I would hope that that's not, I would think that in like Reaper, Studio One, etc., you should be able to. So what I've done up here on a different track, you can see up at the top left, I've made these like pre-portioned and color-coded sections of silence. This is the one I keep copied sort of on my clipboard, ready to paste in, because it goes in the middle of chapters. So I keep it copied. What goes at the front of chapters, the very beginning, this green one. In the break after the chapter 1, in that break between saying chapter 1 and starting the chapter, this 1.5 second gap goes there. And then this 2.5 goes at the very, very, very end of every chapter. So that's why it's there at the end. But doing little pre-organization, sort of packing your lunch for yourself so that you don't end up going out to, Buffalo Wild Wings again. Whatever you can do to set yourself up for success, my friends. So there we go. All right. That's enough explanation of that. Let's get back into reading. Probably have another 5 to 8 minutes, I would say, of narrating in this chapter, if my forecasts are correct, and we'll find out. I leaned back, taking in the halo display as it tried to sync with the signal. Admiral Gilbert, brow furrowed and looking impatient, didn't wait for any kind of greeting from me. "You're late, Captain." I bit back the retort I wanted to say. "Yes, Admiral, we ran into a bit of trouble with the technomycoids on arrival into this sector." "I already know about your skirmish with the damn pirates." He let out an impatient breath. That fine vessel you came to the rescue of, they didn't hesitate letting the folks here at the EUNF know what had happened. I find it strange that this information came across my desk from one of our allies instead of one of my direct reports. Admiral, with this mission's growing chaos, there hasn't exactly been an abundance of spare time for drafting situation reports. I could see by the Admiral's expression he wasn't pleased with my reply. "Sir, if I may, why is there a U.S. Space Navy warship, an Omninaut no less, here in local space? I would think that negates the whole purpose of Iron Fist's deployments here." USS Vigilant here. I'm going to pause, and sometimes you get a bubble. Purpose of Iron Fist's deployment here. USS Vigilant has been deployed to this system for reasons you're not privy to. Even I have not been fully briefed on the vessel's highly confidential mission here. What I do know is that the ship's CO has been alerted in regard to an arrest warrant issued for one Captain Galvin Quintos. I didn't like the sound of that, and I didn't like the way that... here's something that I'm doing here. I am marking on my reader here. Please let me mark. Please let me mark. Ooh, maybe it doesn't want to let me mark when I'm in... Ooh, we're going to briefly go full screen on the reader. Now can I mark? I can't mark. What has happened? Okay, we're going to close the reader. That's annoying.
Oh, it's because the search window is still open. Go away. Cool. So in the, let me open this thing back up. Actually, we want to go here and then open you, split screen, and then go for you. It didn't work. Feeling very boomer right now. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right. So we're still good to go. Now we can open this. So I read on a jailbroken Kindle tablet. And the reader that I use, it's pretty functional as far as like the ability to notate, highlight, underline, things like that. And this particular, what I tend to do is during a pre-read, I'll do like a certain kind of underline for words that I know I'm going to need to double check pronunciations on, stuff like that. I'll highlight really important like vocal characteristic indicators. So if someone is described as having like a deep gravelly voice, I'll highlight that, stuff like that. And then typos. If I've found that the author has made any kind of error, whether it affects my narration or not, I'll use a different kind of underline for that. And then later, when I'm completely done with production, I'll send a suggested edits document to the author or rights holder, as it may be, so that they can potentially make a fix there. This error that I just marked does not affect my narration, but it's basically there's a paragraph of quote, and there's no ending quote on there. They forgot the closed quotations, which again doesn't affect my narration, but it is an error. So I'm just marking it so that later I can communicate that. I heard my email ding, so let's see if we've got someone wanting to give us $1 million. And that is related to voiceover training, to bring up what Professor Pogo was saying. Training, super important, and I've got a session coming up. It's actually in a couple months, but got it lined up today. So yeah.
Captain Galvin Quintos.
All right, back to work here. Let's finish this up.
Captain Galvin Quintos. I didn't like the sound of that, and I didn't like the way the good admiral was glaring back at me. An arrest warrant? For me personally? Admiral, can you be more specific? Knock off the innocent Admiral, can you be more specific? Knock off the innocent indignation. Come on. Admiral, can you be more specific? Knock off the innocent Admiral, can you be more specific? Knock off the innocent indignation, Quintos. What? You thought pilfering priceless, highly advanced technology from a What? You thought pilfering pilfering priceless, highly advanced technology from another U.S. Space Navy vessel would, what, go unnoticed? A sudden icy chill seemed to permeate. Would, what, go unnoticed? A sudden icy chill seemed to permeate the bridge as the crew went quiet and perfectly still. Even the typically fidgety macaw perched on Blunderton's shoulder. Okay. The crew went quiet and perfectly still. Even the typically fidgety macaw perched on Blunderton's shoulder looked more like a stuffed, motionless prop than a real bird. The Admiral continued. As we speak, Captain Thistlewit is readying a boarding party, soon to Quansport onto Iron Fist. Sir, with all due respect, Captain Eustace... Wait, let me see here. Okay, this immediately answers my confusion. Thistlewit was in the last book, and he died. Okay, but here we explain it away immediately. Lysander. Okay, this is going to be fun. Soon to Quansport onto Iron Fist. Soon to Quansport onto Iron Fist.
Sir, with all due respect, Captain Eustace...
Soon to Quansport onto
Iron Fist. Sir, with all due respect, Captain Eustace Thistlewit was killed on board USS Ike on a previous mission. Thank you for stating the obvious, Captain. I am referring to Captain Eustace Thistlewit's older brother, Captain Lysander Thistlewit. Captain Lysander Thistlewit. As if one Thistlewit wasn't enough, Blunderton murmured under her breath. It wasn't enough, Blunderton murmured under her breath. Pristy was now up on her feet, leaning in, white. It wasn't enough, Blunderton murmured under her breath. Pristy was now up on her feet, leaning in, white-knuckled fist planted upon her tactical board. This is outrageous, Admiral. Without the quick actions of Captain... Knuckled fist planted upon her tactical board. This is outrageous, Admiral. Without the quick actions of Captain Quintos, Science Officer Stefan Dorota would be dead. Or did your debriefing fail to mention that little... Science Officer Stefan Dorota would be dead. Or did your debriefing fail to mention that little fact? Hell, the very prospect of a board... Debriefing failed to mention that little fact. Hell, the very prospect of a boarding team using quansporting would not be possible without Stefan Dorota's scientific accomplishments. Prospect of a boarding team using quansporting would not be possible without Stefan Dorota's scientific accomplishments. Okay, this is a tough sentence. Debriefing failed to mention that little fact. Hell, the very prospect of a boarding team using quansporting would not be possible without Stefan Dorota's scientific accomplishments. Using quansporting would not be possible without Stefan Dorota's scientific accomplishments. And may I add, you knew perfectly well we were bending the rules back there on Stefan Dorota's scientific accomplishments. And may I add, you knew perfectly well we were bending the rules back there on Halibart Station. None of this is new to you. Best you check your tone, XO, the Admiral admonished. You check your tone, XO, the Admiral admonished. His attention was suddenly pulled away by someone else talking to him. He listened, nodded. Pulled away by someone else talking to him. He listened, nodded, molars grinding, looked to... Pulled away by someone else talking to him. He listened, nodded, molars grinding, looked to be inwardly counting to 10. Gilbert's attention returned. The boarding party from USS Vigilant has quansported onto Ironfist. Gilbert's attention returned. The boarding party from USS Vigilant has quansported onto Iron Fist, and from what I've just been told, they have been curtailed from progressing further into the ship by a 7-foot-tall chronobot, one with plasma... 7-foot-tall chronobot, one with plasma weapons deployed and looking very much ready to fire. I almost laughed out loud, but managed to keep an impassive expression. Pristy crossed her arms beneath her chest as her cheeks flushed. The XO looked angry enough to split beneath her chest as her cheeks flushed. The XO looked angry enough to spit nails. Galvin, we don't need this shit, so we have two... XO looked angry enough to spit nails. Galvin, we don't need this shit. So we have a few too many of those octozyke creatures burrowed under our ranch back... This shit. So we have a few too many of those octozyke creatures burrowed under our ranch back home. At least with them, we know what we're dealing with, and they won't stab us in the back when it's convenient for them. Gilbert's face grew stern, his lips forming a thin, razor-sharp line as he struggled to speak, his words choked by mounting rage. I lifted my palm in a placating gesture, fighting to maintain a composed expression despite my own racing pulse. Look, Admiral, I'll have Hardy stand down. I'm sure this is all a big misunderstanding. I glanced over to Newman and nodded, letting her know she needed to contact
glanced over to Newman and nodded, letting her know she needed to... I glanced over to Newman and nodded, letting her know she needed to contact the chronobot to let the boarding party do what they came here to do. Reluctantly, she nodded back. I signaled for her. Reluctantly, she nodded back. I signaled for her to cut the connection. Reluctantly, she nodded back. I signaled for her.
Watch them YouTubes.
Reluctantly, she nodded back. I signaled for her. Reluctantly, she nodded back. I signaled for her to cut the connection.
We have an error here, I think. Yeah, this needs to be an I'd. Yep, another error.
I signaled for her to cut the connection. I'd had just about enough of the Admiral for now. I signaled for her to cut the connection. I'd had just about enough of the Admiral for now. The one good thing about not having deck ports on this ship was that I'd have a few more minutes to work out some kind of plan. Just about enough of the Admiral for now. The one good thing about not having deck ports on this ship was that I'd have a few more minutes to work out some kind of a plan of action.
Cool. Okay. All right. So... Ooh, that was a long read. Okay, because we keep yapping. It's okay. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to open our studio door. Let the temperature adjust a little bit. Hydrate a little bit. Check and see. Okay, we gotta respond yes to that. Business, my friends. How do I show me that notification? All right, we'll deal with that later. Cool. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna edit what we've just narrated. Typically, I like to narrate a whole bunch and then edit in big batches, but this will be a case. Ooh. There we go. This will be a case where I'm just wanting to replenish the oxygen in the booth, but also just to show off the editing process, how quickly this moves. And cool. So, once again, we're going to make sure that this 2-second section is on the clipboard. And I'm not going to talk much while I do this. I am going to talk. You can't stop me. But we're going to schmoove. And here we go. Delete that section. We're dragging down our pre-portioned sections of room tone. And basically, as I tab, all I'm doing, I hit the tab key, and in Pro Tools, that jumps me forward to the next place there is an edit. Any kind of cut, ooh, that's ugly. Any kind of cut, hitting tab jumps forward to the next cut, and I can hit Control Tab to jump backward to the previous cut. Definitely breathable, though the higher... generally, you'll see I'm not really listening. If there's something kind of weird, like a weird cut that seems like it might be awkward, I will listen to just that little spot, but otherwise, I'm not listening to what I'm doing here. That would make this take forever, and I'm not about that. Now, as I'm tabbing, I mentioned, you saw me occasionally do that long roll that I talked about. And in spots like here, where there's 2 cuts back to back, there's already a crossfade there. Those are spots I know where I did that edit in the moment while we were narrating. Oh, this is going to be a weird spot. Let's see what we do here. Probably here. Let's listen. Here sat a warship that could outgun our jalopy of a... Here sat a warship that could outgun our jalopy of a vessel in every... So... by no means does anybody have to do any of this the way that I'm doing it. This is just a series of processes that over the years I've worked out that work for me in this particular program
with my particular workflows. I'm sure there are other people out there who have super brilliant, fast ways to work through some of these things. The moon's natural dusty mantle. The moon's natural dusty mantle. Sure. But yeah, this works for me. Here's that ... Select, paste, move on. Jumping. And so this chapter took just over 20 minutes to record. The finished time of it should be like in the ballpark of 10 minutes, but it should only take me 3 minutes to edit. I might go a little slower because I'm yapping. But it's a pretty good edit ratio. This just shows like really, really important, both for now in the edit and while you're recording. Learn your program, learn your hotkeys. You should like, basically the less moving your hands and fingers do, the more efficient you are. You'll notice like when I'm doing my punch and roll recording, I'm not using the mouse to like set the cursor where I want it to be, because Pro Tools has hotkeys on the keyboard for quickly shuttling around and moving around the timeline. Between the tab key to jump back and forward to edit points and the numeral 1 and 2 keys to move back and forward either by seconds or by, if you hold it down, it'll sort of like actually jog. Hold on.
So we have a few too many of those octas.
Between all those kinds of movements of the playhead, like I can get around the timeline really quickly without touching the mouse. And it's accurate enough for what I'm doing here. There's that. There's that. Boom. 3 minutes, 53 seconds on the edit. And that little window that popped there is my crossfade automated thing there. Now we're bouncing this out. 03:53. That was 10 minutes, 12 seconds long on that clip. So our production ratio is 2.45. So a little less than 2.5 minutes to produce 1 minute of finished audio. Not so bad. And that's how audiobook production works. You narrate, you edit, and then you proof. This here is positron. We'll go ahead and show the positron process. Why not? We won't actually do the pickups, but we'll show you the little process here. Audiobooks, Iron Fist. So this here is positron. You upload your chapters, and you upload the script, and basically what positron does is it listens to your audio, and it compares that against the text of the script that you upload, and it points out errors. It's an incredible tool. I couldn't work without it. Like, it's a lifesaver. It's one of the rare, like, really good and positive uses of AI. As far as I'm concerned, like, AI, insofar as it replaces humans, like, if it's not a creative thing that the AI is replacing, if it's not basing its value off of scraping the creative output of hundreds or thousands of, talented human creators. I see. Professor's back. Professor says, Reaper is cheaper and has a lot of features, though it can be confusing for a beginner. That part is true of any of these programs. Studio One's more streamlined and can be easier to use, but it's almost triple the price and not as customizable. So torn on which one to get. My sense is that there are good like Facebook groups and YouTube channels for both of those. I do know that there's very active like And it's not just like, oh, here's a Facebook group for people who use Reaper or Studio One. There are Facebook groups for voice talent who use those programs. So if you have voice talent specific questions, you can go search those questions in those groups. And if you don't find an answer via search, you can ask it. So, honestly, like what's the price for Reaper these days? Let me search it over here. Reaper DAW. Let's see how much it is. How much? Purchase. Cost. It says not so much. What's the discounted license? How do you... Who says what a discounted license is? Wait. You may use it if you are an individual and it's only for personal use and yearly gross revenue does not exceed 20 grand. Okay. This second one, this second thing, you may use the discounted license if your yearly gross revenue does not exceed 20K. If you're just getting into this, you're probably good for getting the discounted license. For $60, like, hey, that's you're good to go. And by the time you're making some good solid scratch off of it, go ahead and be legit, get that commercial license. Last thing you want is bad things to happen because you wanted to save, 150 or whatever bucks. But yeah, very cool. Yeah. Man, I have never, and in fact, is there a trial? Oh, download and evaluate Reaper for free. Free, fully functional 60-day evaluation. Oh, bro, fucking, that makes your decision for you. Do this. Try out the evaluation. You got 60 days to figure out if it works for you, and you're good to go. And like learning one DAW, every DAW has its peculiarities, and like basically whichever one you learn first, you'll always be like, well, I like the way that this one did it. It's the best way to do it. And it's like, yeah, it's just because you learned that one first. But starting, like really getting familiar with a DAW, Reaper is not a bad place to start. And if you're interested in doing music, Reaper is a perfectly capable of producing some music. So you can have some fun making some beats in Reaper. But let's take a look at Positron and see. This should be done processing. Oh no, it's still processing. It says. Let's refresh and see if that's a lie. Still processing. It's already processed all of these. I don't have a lot of pickups. I'm actually recording pretty accurately on this book. Many of these chapters have no pickups, which is great to see. Cool. Yeah, I don't even know what Studio One costs. What is Studio One? Studio One. What do we got here? Can we also free demo? 30 days. I've actually thought of, just for content, like I would do this if I wasn't like busy with paying work. If I was like just trying to like, I don't know, increase my online presence and, all of that stuff, I would probably produce content it'd be interesting to get the free trial of Studio One, of Reaper, of Twisted Wave, of Hindenburg, and even to open up Audacity, which I do have Audacity on my computer because there's one particular tool that Audacity is useful for. But I think it'd be fun to get the trial version of each of these and basically walk through the punch and roll process, how it works on each of these programs. Because sort of demonstrating the value of punch and roll versus long roll narration is like, that's the probably the single biggest reason to upgrade from Audacity, is that. So yeah, but cool, yeah. You got 60 days to try out Reaper, and if it's working for you, go for it.
you've got 30 days to try out Studio One. Give it a shot. But yeah, cool. And there's a forum here. There's probably a forum here as well. But yeah, the forum, this will be a great place to ask questions and yada yada. 33,000 threads just in the Q&A, tips, tricks, and how-to. Plenty of resources for you there. So that's cool. Yeah. Let me know how it goes. I'd be really interested to hear your experience with Reaper, because like I said, I've never used it, but maybe at some point I'll try that trial and see how it works, because it would be nice to be able to like intelligently communicate with other people who use Reaper when they go like, oh, like in Reaper I can do it this way, and I go like, oh yeah, that's right, maybe I'll see if I can do that in Pro Tools. So yeah, let's see if we have still processing. We're going to let that keep processing, and we're going to go ahead and start narrating the next chapter. We're going to switch back to earbuds. Take a big drink of water. Let's see here. How long have we been live? Just 2 hours. Okay. We'll keep rolling, and we'll go for another, probably be another hour with all the yapping I'm doing. But let's get back to work here. Bring you down. Bring this. Close this door. There we go. All right. All right, on to chapter 24. It looks like we've got a nice point of view change to Sonia. Sonia is Galvin Quintos's niece. All right, everything has been marked down. This should be a similar length chapter. Here we go. Chapter 24. Chapter 24. USS Iron Fist, R&D Lab. Sonia Winters. Sonia Winters paced restlessly around Stefan Dorota lab. Wearing pajamas and bunny slippers, she padded across deck plates in an irregular rhythm that matched her wandering thoughts. The Mumbai. The rhythm that matched her wandering thoughts. The Mumbai-born scientist was hunched over his workbench, completely absorbed in analyzing what remained of the technomycoid with a phasorion. What? All right, I don't think this is a real word, but we're going to check. Phasorion? Phasorion? That's how it's spelled, right? P-H-A-S. Where is it? O-R-I-O-N. So, okay. So, okay, it's not a real word, which means we have the power to make it up. Analyzing what remained of the technomycoid with a phasorion. We're going to say phasorion. Where are we? Where are we? Phasorion resonance probe. Nice. Analyzing what remained of the technomycoid with a phasorion resonance probe. Analyzing what remained of the technomycoid with a phasorion resonance probe. Its grotesque form lay spread across the bench like some nightmarish autopsy. With a phasorion resonance probe. Its grotesque form lay spread across the bench. Come on. With a phasorion resonance probe. Its grotesque form lay spread across the bench like some nightmarish autopsy, a testament to the Therokine's savage attack. The harsh overhead lighting cast strange shadows across the dissected remains, making the fungal networks threaded throughout its form seem like the entangled roots of a dead tree. Okay. The entangled roots of a dead tree. And then Ben had the nerve to... The entangled roots of a dead tree. And then Ben had the nerve to text message me about picking up where we left off when I get back.
she continued, knowing Stefan was only half listening. She moved past rows of diagnostic equipment that probably hadn't seen use since before her parents were born. USS Iron Fist might be a relic, but Dorota had somehow transformed this space into a working lab, even if half the equipment looked like it belonged in a museum. As if I'm going to waste time on someone who smells like he bathes in... As if I'm going to waste time on someone who smells like he bathes in fermented goat milk. Did I mention the hygiene issues? Mm-hmm, Stefan murmured. Mm-hmm, Stefan murmured, adjusting the probe's Stefan murmured, adjusting the probe's sensitivity. This is tough. Stefan murmured, adjusting the probe's sensitivity. The holographic readout above his workstation flickered with streams of data that meant little to Sonia. Fascinating. These neural pathways show signs of vortexation entanglement at the cellular level. The fungal network appears to function at some...
Let's give that another shot.
Of data that meant little to Sonia. Fascinating. These neural pathways show signs of vortexation... of data that meant little to Sonia. Fascinating. These neural pathways show signs of vortexation entanglement at the cellular level. The fungal network appears to function as some sort of distributed processing. Whoa. Fungal network appears to function as some sort of distributed processing system. Sonia rolled her eyes, absently twirling what appeared to be a robotic foot between her fingers. She'd found it to be a robotic foot between her fingers. She'd found it on the deck earlier and had been using it as a prop while she talked. The appendage was an unsettling fusion of mechanical components and organic material, with sinewy green tendrils woven through its intricate servos and hydraulics. Even detached from its host, Even detached from its host, the engineering was impressive in a horrifying way. Hardy thinks I should focus on my studies instead of dating anyway. Hardy thinks I should focus on my studies instead of dating anyway, she continued, examining the foot more closely. The metal was cool against her skin, but the organic components felt different, almost warm. But what does a 300-year-old robot know about... The foot suddenly twitched in her hand, its metallic toes curling with horrible purpose. The fungal tendrils pulsed with sticky bioluminescence as the servos whirred to life. Sonia let out a... Sonia pulsed with sticky bioluminescence.
Oh, sickly. Oh, Jesus.
Toes curling with horrible purpose. The fungal tendrils pulsed with The fungal tendrils pulsed with sickly bioluminescence as the servos whirred to life. Sonia let out a yelp and flung it across the lab. It clattered against a far bulkhead, the sound echoing through the compartment like a gunshot. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she watched the foot lie motionless on the deck. It didn't really move, she told herself. Just a servo discharging or something. These things can't possibly... Dorota's head snapped up from his work, confusion quickly shifting to alarm. What happened? The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage. The foot moved. The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage. The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage. Come on. The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage. She pointed at the discarded appendage, backing away from it. Her voice sounded higher than normal, tight with barely...
Oh, we gotta be bigger here.
...to alarm. What happened? The foot moved! She pointed at the discarded... She pointed at the discarded... She pointed at the discarded She pointed at the discarded... She pointed at the discarded appendage, backing away from it. Her voice sounded higher than normal, tight with barely controlled panic. It just spasmed or something. The fungus lit up. Get away with...
Okay, we'll get back to that, but we need to do the edit here, and I think this is it.
The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage, backing away from it.
We have to do it again. Oh, this sucks.
What happened? The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage. She pointed at the discarded appendage, backing away from it. Her voice sounded higher than normal, tight with barely controlled panic. It just spasmed or something. The fungus lit up. Get away from it. Dorota's voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. He snatched up a bottle of antibacterial solvent, already moving toward her. His normally calm demeanor had vanished, replaced by urgency. Wash your hands immediately. The fungal network might still be active. But I...
All right, let's fix this. Edit here. Is it here?
The foot moved. She pointed at the discarded appendage, backing away from it. Her voice sounded high.
That's fine. Have we clipped? We haven't clipped. When doing these high volume things, I have it off screen here, but I've got a little meter that will show if I've clipped. But failing that, like, boy, these peaks go off the edge. Like, what do I? In Pro Tools, you can change the height of your peaks just by holding some hotkeys down. So let's look at this highest peak, and let's see if there's a flat top on it to indicate that we've got clipping. Zoom in now. No flat top. So we are good to go. Go.
The fungal network might still be active.
Okay. Hydrate. I might actually take a food break, like a proper break after this one. So we might wrap up the stream in another 10 to 15 minutes here. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel. Starting to feel a little hungry. Let's see. Where are we?
The network might still be active.
Here we go.
The fungal network might still be active. But Her words died in her throat as movement caught her eye. On the workbench, the mangled technomycoid corpus was beginning to shift. Its ravaged form twitched and jerked as the fungal network threaded throughout its body pulsed with the same sickly light she'd seen in the foot. The hollow spaces where the therokine had torn away components now writhed with tentacle-like strands that reached into empty air. Professor Pogo, I'm going to head out myself. Nice meeting you. Do I stream often? The streaming it's here or there. I should be more regular with how I stream, but, when it happens, it happens. But whether it's here on Twitch or on YouTube, the VODs, if you will, I think the VODs are saved permanently, maybe. But if not, on YouTube, if you're desperate for more Jimmy veteran audio content, you can head over to YouTube, and I've got a bunch of old live streams that have got stuff there. But if you're wanting to get sort of live interaction and stuff like that, I try to stream at least once a week, but it's by no means regular or at any set time. So you kind of have to just get lucky like you did today. But I appreciate you hanging out. So yeah. Good luck with Reaper. I want to hear your experience with it. Because it does look cool. It looks exciting. So maybe I'll dump Pro Tools and I'll switch to Reaper at some point. But yeah, have a good one. Strands that reached into empty air. Strands that reached.
Heavy truck passing.
Strands that reached into empty air. Sonia's scream caught in her throat as she watched the thing slowly push itself upright. The motion was wrong, too fluid for something so badly damaged, too purposeful for something...
Yeah, cheers, man.
The thing slowly pushed...
Or woman, or whatever. Cheers, friend.
The thing slowly pushed itself upright. The thing slowly push itself. Where the hell am I? The thing slowly push itself up.
I totally lost my spell. Oh, there we go.
The thing slowly push itself upright. The motion was wrong. Too fluid for something so badly damaged. Too purposeful for something that should be dead. Stefan, I thought you said that thing was dead. Stefan backed away from the bench, his normally warm brown eyes growing wide with horror. No. I thought you said that thing was dead.
No. Redo that one.
For something that should be dead. Stefan, I thought you said that thing was dead. Dorota backed away from the bench.
Come on.
I thought you said that thing was dead. Dorota backed away from the bench, his normally warm brown eyes wide with growing horror. I'm not in sure. Brown eyes wide with growing horror. I'm not entirely sure these things can be killed, he said, voice tight. That fungus, it appears to have properties we don't fully understand. Be killed, he said, voice tight.
Come on.
Be killed, he said, voice tight. That fungus, killed, he said, voice tight. That fungus, it appears to have properties we don't fully understand. The network itself might be some form of distributed consciousness. The technomycoid's head swiveled toward them with mechanical precision, what passed for its face fixing on Sonia with terrifying focus. The fungal networks across its surface convulsed with apparent purpose, creating patterns. Convulsed with apparent purpose, creating patterns that. Where am I? Convulsed with apparent purpose. Convulsed with apparent purpose, creating patterns that hurt her eyes to look at. A clicking sound emerged from somewhere within its ravaged form. Not mechanical, but something altogether more alien. Hardy! She shouted into her tack band, but the creature was already moving.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. We'll do it here.
Hardy! She shouted into her tack band, but the creature was already moving. Despite missing several key components, including the foot she'd thrown, it launched itself from the bench. It launched itself from the bench with shocking agility. Servos whined and hydraulics hissed as it compensated for its missing parts through some impossible biomechanical adaptation. Sonia scrambled backward, putting a lab bench between herself and the approaching horror. The smell hit her then, a chemical tang mixed with something organic that reminded her of mushrooms after a rainstorm. Her mind raced through possible escape routes. The main entrance was too far, and the emergency hatch was behind the creature. Think! The sound of shattering glass filled the lab as Dorota hurled a beaker of amber solution at the creature. The liquid splashed across its back, sizzling where it touched metal, but having no apparent effect on the fungal networks. If anything, the chemical assault seemed to focus its attention more firmly on Sonia. Nella, code 7 Alpha, Dorota shouted, his voice.
Let's fix this real quick.
The fungal networks. If anything.
Check real quick to see if anyone. Let's make a note for the YouTubes real quick. Cool. And let's replace that. Any no new auditions. So let's head back.
Nella.
Wait, we gotta fix this.
Fungal networks. If anything, the chemical assault seemed to focus
We here?
If anything, the chemical assault seemed to focus its attention more firmly.
Like maybe like this.
The chemical assault seemed to focus its attention. The chemical assault seemed to focus its attention more firmly on Sonia.
Cool. All right.
Its attention more firmly on
Sonia. Nella, code 7 Alpha.
Its attention more firmly on Sonia.
Nella, code 7 Alpha. Come on.
Attention more firmly. Its attention more firmly on Sonia.
Nella, code 7 Alpha.
Its attention more firmly on
Sonia. Nella, code 7 Alpha, Dorota shouted, his voice cracking with panic. Security breach in Lab 3. We need immediate assistance. The specimen is active. I repeat, the specimen is active. The auto hatch cycled open with a gasp, admitting Dr. Sullivan and 2 spindly Metabots. The doctor's eyes widened as she took in the scene, but her voice remained steady as she barked commands at her mechanical assistants. Containment protocols. Subdue and restrain. The Metabots.
Containment protocols. Subdue and
Restrain. The Metabots moved to flank the technomycoid, their frames looking absurdly fragile compared to the hybrid horror they faced. Sonia's hope died as she watched the creature tear into the first Metabot with devastating efficiency. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the first Metabot with devastating efficiency. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the deck as it ripped the robot's arms from its torso. Metabot with devastating efficiency. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the deck as it ripped the robot's arms from its torso with terrible strength, the sound of tearing metal mixing with the pop and hiss of ruptured pneumatic lines. The second Metabot froze, its basic preservation protocols apparently overriding Sullivan's commands. It proved a futile gesture. The technomycoid closed the distance in 2 fluid steps, tearing the robot's head. Tearing the robot's head clean off. The decapitated component skittered across the deck like some grotesque child's toy. Tearing the robot's head clean off. The decapitated component skittered across the deck like some grotesque child. Like some grotesque child's toy. Leaving trails of lubricant in its wake. Sonia's back pressed against cold bulkheads as she realized she'd run out of room to retreat. Her breath came in short gasps as terror clawed at her chest. The creature advanced with as terror clawed at her chest. The creature advanced with methodical purpose, its remaining organic components pulsing in time with its mechanical movements. She heard Dorota shouting for her to run, but there was nowhere left to go. With horrifying grace, the technomycoid leaped onto the bench before her. Up close, she could see how the fungal Up close, she could see how the fungal networks knit its disparate parts together, could smell that alien mixture of machine oil and organic decay. Her eyes darted to where Dorota was rushing forward, his fists raised in a futile gesture of protection. Time seemed to slow as she watched the creature's arm snap out with terrible speed. The backhand caught Dorota across the temple with devastating force, the impact lifting him off his feet. Sonia watched in horror as his
Sonia watched in horror as her friend crumpled.
Come on.
The impact lifting him off his feet. Sonia watched in horror as her friend crumpled to the deck, blood already beginning. Horror as her friend crumpled to the deck, blood already beginning to trickle from horror as her friend crumpled to the deck, blood already beginning to trickle from his scalp. No! No!
No.
No! No!
No.
No! No! No!
No, come on. This is the hardest thing.
No! No! The scream tore from her throat as she pressed harder against the bulkhead. This can't be happening. Not after we just saved him. Not like this. Time seemed to crystallize.
Okay. Getting a teenager scream hard.
Blood already beginning to trickle from his scalp. No! The scream tore from her throat as she pressed harder against the bulkhead. This can't be happening.
All right, we do have to check and see if we have peaked here. Looks like the tallest part of the peak is here. No flat top there. Anyone on the bottom side of the peak? Looks like we are Gucci. Let's double check here at the bottom. Wait. That is not a proper peak flat bottom. Yeah. Yeah, we're okay. So no peaking. No peaking. Let's see if the pacing is okay.
To trickle from his scalp. No! The scream tore from her throat as she pressed harder against the bulkhead.
Cool.
This can't be happening. Not after we just saved him. Not like this.
Cool, cool, cool. How much time is left? About a page left. Cool. Here we go.
Saved him. Not like this. Time seemed to crystallize. Saved him. Not like this. Time seemed to crystallize as the technomycoid loomed over her. In that moment, she understood with perfect clarity that she was about to die. This cobbled-together nightmare would tear her apart, would integrate her components into its twisted form. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound emerged. The fungal networks across its surface pulsed faster now, reaching toward her with tendril-like projections that seemed to...
Let's fix this.
Like this. Time seemed to crystallize as the technomycoid loomed over her. In that moment, she understood with perfect clarity. Across its surface pulsed faster now.
Oh, where are we?
Across its surface pulsed faster now, reaching toward her. Across its surface pulsed faster now, reaching toward her with tendril-like projections that seemed to move independently of their mechanical host. The smell of decay grew stronger, and she could hear that alien clicking sound again, closer now. Where the hell is Hardy? Crimson plasma. Where the hell is Hardy? Crimson plasma bolts suddenly filled the lab, their light so bright it left afterimages dancing across her vision.
Come on.
Plasma bolts suddenly filled the lab, their light so bright it left afterimages dancing across her vision. The technomycoid's form literally exploded under the assault, spraying organic and mechanical debris in every direction. The fungal networks flared with brilliant light before disintegrating into ash. Something struck her right shoulder with incredible force, the impact spinning her around. Fire bloomed across her collarbone as her legs gave out. The impact spinning her around. Fire bloomed across her collarbone as her legs gave out. Through dimming vision, she saw Hardy's chrome frame filling the lab's entrance, his shoulder-mounted plasma cannon still glowing cherry red. His chrome frame filling the lab's entrance, his shoulder-mounted plasma cannon still glowing cherry red from discharge. The deck rushed up to meet her as consciousness fled, and Sonia Winters fell into oblivion. But even as darkness took her, some part of her mind registered movement among the scattered debris. Some of the surviving fungal fragments were moving, reaching for each other, trying to reconnect. Then there was nothing at all.
All right. So funny. Sometimes you get these long, 30-second, maybe a minute, these long stretches of good solid recording, and then sometimes it's like, all right, every 2 seconds we're gonna have to have a new take. Like, that's just how it goes, baby. That's showbiz. All right. Do we want to edit what we've got? Do we want to keep narrating? Let's do the thing again. Let's open the door. I think I would like to edit what we've got, then narrate. And then call it for the stream. We're gonna go cans for editing. Boop, boop, boop. Holy. Excuse me. All right. So, here we go. Let's edit. Boom. We're going to put this one there and then here. Boom. And this edit should take me 3.5, maybe 4 minutes, depending on how much yapping I do. Tab, adjust the ends. Tab, adjust the ends. Really simple and straightforward. That's funny. I did an audition recently for a publisher that has it's like full service. Like when you start working with like real publishers, publishers that have like an in-house like audiobooks team, that's when it's luxury, man. It is luxury. But I did an audition for this publisher that doesn't want edited punch and roll audio. So basically what I'm producing here is edited punch and roll audio. This is audio that is pacing. Everything is according to how I have chosen to do it. It's edited. Basically, I sort of, by default, like my mastering stack is always on it, with the exception of noise reduction, which is something that I only turn on for final delivery. But typically publishers will want finished punch and roll narration without any mastering on it. So that's what I'm used to delivering to even the bigger publishers. But for this particular publisher, they want long roll recording, no editing, like dog clicker mistakes, all of it. They want truly raw, just give us the long roll, which is wild that they would want that, but whatever. So we'll see if we get that one. I say like I'm not looking for new books, but this would be one of those rare cases that, hey, I will make it fit into my calendar. Hey, that was a pretty quick edit. Bounce, chapter 24. That was only 2 minutes, 40 seconds for the edit, for 10:40 final. Better ratio on that one. All right, there's another 10 minutes of finished audio done, and we can go ahead and drop it into here. And then get the next thing ready. Holy hell. How much sleep did I get? I guess I maybe only got like 6 hours of sleep. Oops. So I have a series of Post-it notes sitting around my desk. There are a couple of words that I need to make notes on. So I have narrated the word Othvani. So I'm making a note here. Othvani, okay. And then there was a thing about the star. I just want to make sure. So if you can't, if it's a made up word, you as the producer are basically getting to say like, hey, this is how it's pronounced. Fine, but then you have to be consistent with yourself. So I've got loads of Post-it notes from different book series here, sort of spread around my studio here, just so that, like especially across books, from book to books, like, man, I haven't said that word in 4 months since the last book by this author I narrated. How did I say it? And yeah, I could probably go like search through the text and then search through the audio to find a sample of me saying it, or I could just make a little Post-it note, save myself some time. Let's look at what the proofing looks like. All right, so that's processing, which means we can now open the proofing. All right, this is what positron looks like when you're proofing. Positron has identified how many? Hello. Positron has identified 6 errors, or it's 6 things that it has flagged as potential errors. And there's actually quite a few more that have been auto-filtered out. Things that I know, like, sometimes, let's see what, they're probably going to be like things like, oh, you pronounced this word wrong, but it's like a made-up word, and it's like, no, I'm pronouncing it right, because that's how I say it's pronounced. Stuff like that. This is a formatting thing, just because of the way the opening chapter, like, capital case works. That's okay. This actually was the other word I wanted to write down on my Post-it, so let's see here. Tor Kalath. Is that how it is? Tor Kalath?
My captain's mount. I watched the Tor Kalath start.
Tor Kalath, okay. So T-O-R Kalath. Tor. So Tor like the onion. Tor. Kalath. Cool. Cool. I have to check, make sure everything's good. So this one is okay, and in fact we are going to filter that out so that it doesn't pop that up.
Atmospheric condition.
Yep, that's a pickup. So that is an error. Like, the text says composition, but I said condition. So it is accurately marked an error.
Moon emerging from behind its parent planet.
That's fine.
Maintain our approach vector. Crew member Newman, let's see.
That's fine. So this chapter only has 1 pickup in it. Very nice. Oh, and we can actually go ahead and check chapter 24. It only marked 3.
Autopsy, a testament to the Therokine's savage.
That's fine.
Sonia. Nella, code 7 Alpha.
That's fine as well. No pickups for chapter 24. Love to see it. And when I'm ready to actually record pickups to do the replacing, basically I hit this export pickup or the proofing packet, pickup packet. That's what you want, the pickup packet. And I'll actually bring that up on my tablet, and it just makes navigating your own project and finding where your pickups need to go. It makes it super, super simple. And yeah, it's a lifesaver. But we're going to go ahead and record one more chapter on the stream, and then we're going to call it. So, a little stretch. It's important. And normally, every 30 minutes to an hour, I like to get up, walk around. We've been streaming for what, 3 hours? 2 hours 43. So, definitely been sitting on my ass for a while, but we're going to do one more chapter. I'm going to go in and get some tea. But let's do this. Make sure we're still good to go here. Good. Okay. All right. Now we are Oathvani. Cool. Can we make this bigger? Hold on. That's as big as it can go. Okay. That's fine. Okay. All right. Ice drops. Highly recommend. All right. Here we go. Chapter 25. Oathvani Moon. USCAM. Subterranean Prison. USCAM? Moon. USC 25. Oathvani Moon. USCAM. 25. Oathvani Moon. USCAM. Subterranean Prison. Captain Galvin Quintos. The reinforced auto hatch cycled shut behind me with a resounding clang that echoed through the corridor. I already missed the familiar whine of iron. What is going on with this here? Oathvani Moon. USCAM. Subterranean Moon. USCAM. Subterranean Prison. Captain Galvin. Okay. Clang that echoed through the corridor. I already missed the familiar whine of Iron Fist's aging systems. The two USCAM security officers who'd escorted me from the Quansporter pad maintained their professional detachment as they guided me deeper into what felt like the deepest bowels of the Oathvani Moon. The temperature dropped with each descending... The deepest bowels of the Oathvani Moon. The temperature dropped with each descending level, the pristine white walls of the upper facility giving way to bare rock and poured concrete. Something felt wrong about this whole setup. USCAM was supposed to be a cutting-edge joint military installation, yet they were leading me into what looked like a prison from Earth's historical archives. No force fields, no quantum containment systems, not even basic automated security measures. Just iron bars and dim lighting that cast long shadows across uneven stone floors. My TAC band had been confiscated immediately upon arrival, along with my insignia and anything else that might connect me to the outside world. The loss of the band felt like a missing limb, no connection to my ship, my crew, or the rapidly deteriorating situating.
limb. No connection to my ship, my crew, or the rapidly deteriorating situation above. The last thing I'd seen before they took it was Pristy's attempt to contact me, her message cut off mid-transmission. The guards stopped before a cell. Her message cut off mid-transition. The guards stopped before a cell that could have been transported. Her message cut off mid-transmission. The guards stopped before us. Come on. Her message cut off mid-transmission. The guards stopped before a cell that could have been transported straight from an 18th century penitentiary. One of them used a mechanical lock-in key, an actual tumbler mechanism instead of quantum encryption, and swung the iron-barred door open with a screech of metal on metal. Okay, get it. Open with a screech of metal on metal. Inside, Captain. Open with a screech of metal on metal. Inside, Captain, the taller guard ordered. Open with a screech of metal on metal. Inside, Captain, the taller guard ordered, no inflection in his voice. His partner's hand rested casually on his sidearm, an old-style projectile weapon rather than the standard. His hand rested casually on his sidearm, an old-style projectile weapon rather than the standard Tagger pistols used throughout the fleet. It was another anachronism that was a strange curiosity, one I was still trying to get my head around. I stepped into the cell, the cold from the stone floor seeping through my boots. The space was maybe 8 feet by stone floor seeping through my boots. The space was maybe 8 feet by 10, with a narrow cot bolted to one wall and a stainless steel toilet sink combination in the corner. The only illumination came from old-fashioned LED strips running the length of the corridor outside, their light barely penetrating the gloom of my new accommodation. The door clanged shut behind me, the lock engaging with a solid clunk that spoke of well-maintained mechanical components. The guard's footsteps receded. Well-maintained mechanical components. The guard's footsteps receded down the corridor, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the drip of water from somewhere in the murk. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, drip of water from somewhere in the murk. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I began a thorough examination of my cell. Years of command had taught me to analyze any situation, no matter how dire, for potential advantages. The walls were solid The walls were solid concrete, no visible seams or weak points. How dire for potential advantages. The walls were solid concrete, no visible seams or weak points. The bars, while antiquated, were thick enough to stop even a Therokine's impressive. No visible seams or weak points. The bars, while antiquated, were thick enough to stop even a Therokine's impressive strength. A single ventilation duct high in the back wall, barely. A Therokine's impressive strength. A single ventilation duct high in the back wall, barely wide enough to fit my arm. Movement caught my eye from further down the corridor. Through the bars, I could make out other cells stretching into the window. Movement caught my eye from further down the corridor. Through the bars, I could make out other cells stretching into the shadows. Most appeared occupied, their inhabitants formidable shapes that could only be Therokines. The sight made my gut clench. Why would USCAM be imprisoning members of the very species that had granted them permission to build here? A familiar, gentle voice carried through the darkness. That had granted them permission to build here. A familiar, gentle voice carried through the darkness, its alien, thine-accented resonance instantly recognizable despite the odd acoustics of the subterranean corridor. Captain Quintos? Galvin, is that you? Acoustics of the subterranean corridor. Captain Quintos? Galvin, is that you? I pressed against the bars, straining to see further down the row of cells. Kugong? My friend, of cells. Kugong? My friend! Kugong's voice carried equal measures of joy and concern. I had hoped they would not drag you into this mess, but... His words... They would not drag you into this mess, but... His words trailed off into silence. I shifted position, trying to get a better view. His words trailed off into silence. I shifted position, trying to get a better view down the corridor. From what I could make out, Kugong was 4 cells down, his diminutive form barely visible in the inadequate lighting. The Thine scientist's sealed helmet caught occasional glints from the overhead LEDs, the amber-colored ambiogel within creating strange patterns on the concrete walls. Between us, the Therokine prisoners watched our exchange with unsettling intensity. Their large frames and Neanderthal-like features were imposing even in repose, but there was intelligence in those eyes, and something else. Not the hostility I'd expected, but a weary resignation. That seemed out of place in such physically powerful beings. They arrested me 3 days ago, Kugong replied, his spindly form shifting in the dim light. While integrating Thine technology at the USCAM facility, I discovered something disturbing: encrypted communications and supply manifests. They're using this moon base as cover for an illegal mining operation down on Rockthar itself. Are you being harmed? I asked, concern for my old friend evident. In my voice. No, they need me intact. Kugong's large eyes reflected the dim corridor lighting. The mining equipment they've secretly deployed to Rokthar's surface, it's a hybrid of Earth and Thine technology. They're having difficulties keeping the integration stable. I'm the only one who understands both systems well enough to solve their technical issues. What are they mining? I kept my voice barely above a whisper. Something that should stay buried. Something that should stay buried, Kugong replied, his normally cheerful voice turning grave. These Therokines here, they're tribal leaders from the surface. They discovered the mining operations on their homeworld and came to Oathvani to protest. That's why they're imprisoned here. They know the truth about what's being extracted from their sacred lands. I glanced at the Therokine prisoners between us. Just double-checking that. Know the truth about what's being extracted from their sacred lands. I glanced at the Therokine prisoners between us. Yeah, that's fine. We're schmoving. Glanced at the Therokine prisoners between us. I was brought here under charges of stealing equipment. Glanced at the Therokine prisoners between us. I was brought here under charges of stealing equipment from Aegis 1, Admiral Gilbert himself. Charges of stealing equipment. Nope. Glanced at the Therokine prisoners between us. I was brought here under charges of stealing equipment from Aegis 1. Admiral Gilbert himself transmitted the arrest order. Excuse me. Whew. And
here we go.
Of stealing equipment from Aegis 1, Admiral Gilbert himself transmitted the arrest order. Before Kugong could respond, heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor entrance. My friend's form seemed to... Stop. Heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor entrance. My friend's form seemed to shrink back into the shadows of his cell. "Careful, Galvin," he whispered urgently. "The one who comes, he is not to be trusted. The inheritors are using USCAM's legitimate presence here to hide their true operations on Rockthar." A deep voice rumbled from the cell next to mine. "Your friend speaks truth." So this is the first time we're hearing a Therakine voice. And all we get is deep voice rumbling. "Your friend speaks truth, Sky Captain. My people tried to stop their machines when they began drilling into our forbidden grounds. Now we rot here while they poison our world." So just, scratchy, growly, sure. Voice rumbled from the cell next to mine. Next to mine. "Your friend speaks truth, Sky Captain." The Therakine's powerful hands wrapped around his cell's bars, knuckles whitening. "My people tried to stop their machines when they began drilling into our forbidden... Your friend speaks truth." Yeah. Cell's bars, knuckles whitening. "My people tried to stop their machines when they began drilling into our forbidden grounds. Now we rot here while they poison our world." My mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of information. The primitive prison setup, the armed boarding of Iron Fist, none of it aligned with standard U.S. Space Navy protocols. "The inheritors of Tenebrosity," Kugong said, his spindly form still in the dark shadows of his cell. "They have..." Still in the dark shadows of his cell. "Inheritors of Tenebrosity," Kugong said, his spindly form still in the dark shadows of his jail cell. "They have..." A loud clang echoed through the corridor, cutting him off. His jail cell. "They have..." A loud clang echoed through the corridor, cutting him off. Heavy boots struck stone as new figures approached from the direction I'd been brought in. The Therakines retreated into the shadows of their cells. The Therakines retreated into the shadows. Approached from the direction I'd been brought in. Come on. Approached from the direction I'd been brought in. The Therakines retreated into the shadows of their cells, their earlier openness vanishing like frost under a plasma torch. "Careful, my friend," Kugong whispered. Like frost under a plasma torch. "Careful, my friend," Kugong whispered, his voice barely carrying the distance between us. "Captain Thistlewit approaches, and he is not the man his uniform suggests." The name instantly produced a bad taste in my mouth. Thistlewit, brother of the man who died aboard. It produced a bad taste in my mouth. Thistlewit. It produced a bad taste in my mouth. Thistlewit, brother of the man who died aboard USS Ike, a frail weasel of a man with an inferiority complex. Man who died aboard USS Ike, a frail weasel of a man with an inferiority complex. The pieces were starting to fall into place with sickening clarity. Okay. Cool. Let's do that edit real quick. And that's chapter done. Inferiority complex. A frail weasel of a man with an inferiority complex. The pieces were starting to fall into place with sickening clarity. All right. We will go ahead and edit this. Actually, you know what? I want to leave something for me to edit when I come back. So, we'll do this.
We'll get myself ready to edit. Let's mark our time here. 15:31. Much better than the last couple. And then we'll do this. We'll say thank you for stopping by, my friends. Big thanks to Professor Pogo. Good luck with with Reaper and all that stuff. Good luck to anybody else out there who's looking to dive into this crazy business, whether you're on the voiceover side or the audiobook narration side. We did a few auditions today. We said no to a lot of auditions for a lot of different reasons. But that's how it goes, man. That's showbiz, baby. If you would like to pay me to talk for you, you can head over to veteranaudio.com. You can hear the commercial demos. You can get in contact with me there and pay me lots and lots of money to talk for you. Otherwise, please do all the things. Click the buttons. You know what to do. Otherwise, we'll see you next time we're on, whenever that might be. I cannot be held by a schedule, sleep or otherwise. So I want to say thanks for folks stopping by. If you're watching this in the future, say on YouTube, for example, I do get notifications of comments on YouTube. So leave a comment if you have a question about anything in this video, and I will come back and answer those questions. Even if the video is 6 months old, whatever you got, hit me up. I'll answer it. I love talking gear, and I love talking with other people who are interested in this business. So hit me up there. Otherwise, good luck with your auditions or whatever it is you've got going on, and we hope to see you next time. So thanks a lot, my friends. No, we're on this one here. Thanks a lot, my friends. We'll see you next time. Cheers.